maybe if you want, give some feedback or share your thoughts on some of the competition, not only the winners, but also worlds that you visited or things you've seen that you're like, oh, that's really inspiring, or in any way up for debate or discussion now.
Is it okay if I stream this? Or not stream, but like record any of
Yeah,
this
sure.
information?
Yeah,
okay?
that's the difference indeed, whether you stream it or just record it for
no
your...
streaming, no streaming.
Yeah. No, because it's important that you feel free to say whatever
Absolutely.
you want to do.
Yeah, I don't want to... Is that okay, everyone? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I'm taking a sip of coffee, but why don't you start? Just say anything you want.
Well, to start with one of the winners, I'm sorry, but like the concept vibes, I had a conversation with some students someday about time in virtual reality and why time feels different in virtual reality. And like we were like thinking about that, and we're like, maybe just because we don't see light outside, like the light of day and evenings, and then the concept vibes, the winner of the worlds, did exactly that. He made like a time sequence, and that was like, oh, this is so cool because this was exactly what we were talking about the other day. And he also had a fishbowl that I really like, with like a goldfish in it. I really like that one.
There's a lot of subtleties inside the whole thing.
Yeah. Other thoughts?
Also, sorry, go.
I just like the open way it was presented, and it gave everyone an opportunity to show off everything they're working on, even small experiments or just a small tool that someone developed in its own world, and you can just check it out. And because I guess it was that vibe that it's open for everyone, I got pulled into Discord finally as well. So I'm finally checking out the NEOS Discord, and I was checking out the Maker, the Jam Discord, and I like it. I like it, the way it presents itself as just a way of experimentation, but also just get your community a bit closer together.
Yeah.
Nice. That was one of the primary goals. Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, it was one of the reasons that, of course, it's not about who's the best, but rather it's the activation of the community. And I think it's really nice in a way that the winner is actually not just one person, but it's one of the largest project groups, working together. So I think it's really great, which is the same as you. You're also like an art collective right now,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other thoughts? Pepijn, you took the avatar creator thing. You want to respond to that? You don't have sound?
I like it.
Oh, you like it. Why do you like it?
It was part of the MMC, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I thought it was one of the best tools out there. Because you can... Well, there was one person that made a whole story without animation, like with the simple stencil images, but you can, with this thing, you can actually make like actors that you act yourself, which is so cool.
They've updated the version for that has for full body.
Yeah.
So
That's
I don't know
even
if everyone has that. Let me give you that. This is the share folder for that, everyone. If you end up getting to a point where you have full body,
Yeah, I have that.
You might want that.
Absolutely.
Can we save it in the cloud folder?
Yep.
Yeah, and Medra, I don't know if it's like a top secret, but there's also something about recording audio, right?
Yeah, that's not top secret. That is in the GitHub request, and there's some kind of information about how OGG has some kind of new ability to encode, and that allows for the fact, for some reason, I'm not sure, I have to read up on more, that they might end up having audio recording inside NEOS, so you could just, just like our conversation, you could just record it inside NEOS, utilize it, and then play it back, so you could have all kinds of interesting possibilities. Perhaps instrumentation. I wouldn't be surprised if you could have sound that comes out, then you can just have something that comes out and then some comes back in, and record avatars as they're talking, stuff like that. That'll be really, really exciting.
Pepijn is showcasing how it works. But Pepijn, can you also say why do you think it's cool? I mean, why do you like it?
Because it's technically so easy to use, but kind of easy to use. Maybe it's just my avatar. My avatar sucks, but
Let's
it's
see.
because it's so easy to use. It's
No, you have
can
the wrong.
just
You have the
lit-
wrong one. You have
Huh?
the Nearwood avatar one out. They have two versions. One's for like a flat, or one that doesn't have all the IK.
Mhm.
And this is the one for just like my kind of avatar, which is heads and hands. I did the
Oh.
same exact thing. Like their labeling is needs a little work as far as right there.
So you need
Okay.
the other one, yeah.
I need the other one. All right, I'll grab the other one. But without grabbing the other one, it's just so easy to use. You know, it's so good and it just works really good. I thought. Yeah. Well,
Okay,
I saw
so-
I
yeah.
saw the winner for the what was it, the tools,
Yeah.
which
The
was
tools?
also a very cool winner, the bow and sword and tool
Yeah.
stuff. He had a really cool world with a really cool entrance, and I get that's clearly a winner. But I also think that this one was really a winner just for how convenient it is to make other stuff. You know.
Hmm. That was one reason why I chose it, and many other of the judges felt it was something that was important. Because having something that can animate inside here avatars especially has a lot of possibility.
Yeah.
And luckily, in a weird way, this is a little bit of the inside of the competition is because it was also in the avatars category, and we were very, very, very light on avatars. This one was able to make it inside there, thankfully, because I thought that it deserved a place.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just me. We thought it deserved a place.
That's cool.
Hey Stefan, welcome to the
Hey.
team meeting. Lotte, did you manage to get your audio working? No, still not. Are you at home currently? Okay. Well, we need to help you out at some point, but maybe for now you can just follow us around. But it would be great if you maybe sometime can join and we can just hear your voice. Okay, so are there any other remarks about the competition or things you've seen that was inspiring to you or in any way maybe relevant also to your projects or the research questions that you have or stuff you have questions about?
I do have a question. Like the worlds that are now in the public folder of the MCC, are they going to be like public forever, or are they going to
Yes.
close up at some time?
Yep, they're public. The little symbol that has the MMC button
Yeah.
won't be there forever, but you can always search for the MMC worlds just by typing out MMC. Now, anyone that owns one of those worlds could always unpublish it if they wanted to. I try and suggest that they don't, just for historic purposes, because it's nice to be able to look at this if we end up doing another, which I plan on, and to be able to see every year what was done. That would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay, so of course it's always great to get inspired by works of others, but of course we're also super curious about your work. So
Yeah.
I would say take us by the hand and show us what you've done so far.
Pepijn and Randy, shall we show the world that we made?
Sure.
Okay. Can somebody else host it? Because my computer can handle that.
Yeah, but needs that.
Okay, cool.
We're in the wrong one. This is, it opened up a separate world. Let me get out of this.
As well, okay. So Lotte, we still need Lotte.
Is Lotte VR?
Yeah, I'll invite her to here.
Okay, take it away, I would say.
I think Rennie and Pepijn can tell more about it than I can. So one of you two guys.
Yeah.
Randy's
Yeah.
pretending he's he's away.
No, I fell out of my chair, kind of, sort.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so we're now in the starting area. So we were focusing on well, first we had a research question about how we could break like the laws of physics. But after a lot of experimenting, I found it really hard to get something that would work well. So basically, we decided to tone down the research a bit and just create an area where two users can work together to like solve an escape room esque environment. So we divided the players in two categories. We have the runner, which is basically the person that stands in the room that has to do the escape room, but he's unable to find certain objects. He needs to complete it, which is where the watcher comes in. He can see all the hidden objects, which he needs to communicate on that is the actual escape room.
Yeah.
So they need to work together because one is missing like the perspective of the objective. He can't see them until he is, I believe, until he's really, really close to them. And Atlas can like add to that if I'm getting it wrong. But then this week we started like a new research subject where we wanted to look in how we can get Twitch, like Twitch chat, in the experience as well, and have them exert influence over like the over the room, whereas it can create more of like a scary effect. For example, like they can type in a command and then the command will be run, and then like all the books fall out. For example, we still have to yet to figure that out, like what we wanted to do and how we're gonna do it. But yeah, that's what we've got so far. So we have this starting room which is basically a lobby, and then players can choose if they want to be a runner or a watcher. I'm not sure if the buttons work. You hear?
Somebody has selected the portal clearly, and other stuff.
I don't know where Fine went.
Oh, here.
Yeah. Yeah, this would be the perspective of the Twitch chat then. This is what Twitch would see.
Yeah.
And then because there are going to be more cameras around the room, so they can switch between cameras using commands, and they can have influence over this room by using commands. And like I said, we're not sure quite yet what we wanted to do. But then the runner would be walking around here in this room, and the watcher would be like Atlas is right now, in reverse on the ceiling.
Yeah.
But the runner, that's the one that's in the room, that they can't see each other. So
But are you connected through voice, or how do you then communicate?
yeah, so
Voice,
voice
yeah,
is
okay.
voice is the only, you can only hear each other, but you don't know from each other where you are. But the one on the ceiling has to point out all the clues, or they have to work together to figure out the clues, and then the one on the ceiling knows where to find certain items you need to go clues, and then one on the normal floor, he is the person that actually has to interact with that.
Okay, so this mirror effect that we're doing now is not playing actually a role in the interaction. So one is on the ceiling and one is, but you're both in the same room, or is one person here as well?
No, so that's the point where Twitch chat comes in. We want Twitch to make it either easier or harder. But the two people in the room, they're both in the same room. They don't know like what's happening in Twitch chat, right? So Twitch could make everything really hard by, for example, moving certain objects or making them visible. We're not really sure about that yet, but they are the ones like looking through a security camera.
I see. Yes.
And then
okay.
they're
Yes.
exerting influence on the room, but the two people inside the room, they don't know what's happening.
Maybe.
So what
Sorry. Yeah. Go on.
yeah. So what we're trying to do is like create an escape room, and we're now trying designing the puzzles for it. And you need like 3 perspectives to solve the puzzles in the escape room. One is the
Right.
runner who can actually interact with the room. One is the watcher who can give advice to the runner where the objects are, and one is the Twitch viewers.
I get it, and I think what I find interesting is that if you're standing in front of it, I almost get dizzy because the camera is tilted, so it feels like I'm falling forward in a way, which I think is quite amazing actually. That I'm not entirely sure what how the world is oriented. So there is this idea of the perspective being tilted, which is I find quite interesting. Also, the fact that I can move around and then suddenly you realize it has a depth. So I think it's maybe interesting to think about the security camera not just only be one, but maybe several. Maybe you can switch perspectives as a Twitch member as well.
That was the idea. Multiple perspectives, multiple angles. That was the idea indeed.
And it can also be maybe that if you do a certain command that the camera would tilt right or tilt left or zoom in and zoom out, because then people might also get a more like engaged feel, like, oh, I'm really controlling the camera. I'm not just watching through the camera.
Yeah.
Interesting. And can we enter the room for a moment just to see how the other perspectives are?
We need to. I'm not sure if the button works. We can try.
You can click the runner button or the watcher button.
No,
Pepijn
And
says no.
you're screaming that no.
Oh, for me it worked.
Programmer here. I programmed these so that only 2 people can be in the room. Only one runner, one watcher.
Yes.
Right now it only works in VR. So Randy's now in there. He's not in VR. I'm gonna turn it off and I'm gonna run back in.
Okay, so with no clip, we can also enter the room. So.
Yeah.
By the way, being outside.
There we go. I can see UI again.
Actually, being outside like this, seeing those people in that box is also quite interesting.
I can stop.
Talking about perspectives, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we can also came up with already like a next experiment of like a sort of dollhouse where you can like view from the outside and people inside.
Yeah.
And when they're all like really tiny scales to make like some sort of dollhouse effect.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting thing as well, that this idea of perspectives that cameras have are not human perspectives, so to speak. So it would be interesting to think about indeed that you can be outside watching or having like multiple perspectives on rooms that are next to each other. So I think even if you cannot like physically make all these different perspectives work, it's definitely interesting to explore them a little bit, because it might also be that I'm just a spectator, I'm not playing, but I'd like to see the whole thing happening and I have an overview. So there are even more positions or perspectives to this idea, I think, that you could try out while continuing with the core idea.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, let's. Oh, nice. Okay.
Anyone a runner already?
Very much has like a test subject type of feel.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. I'm really happy with the lighting, guys. I noticed that you're already getting more sensitive to this idea of more like dramatic or theatrical lighting, which really works well because it immediately has an atmosphere rather than like this snack bar lit spaces.
Yeah. We, me and Atlas, we struggle quite a bit with the lighting.
Nice.
And then
Yeah.
I was like, wait, why don't we just dim down the entire lighting? And we figured out how to do that. And then I just put a single point light inside the fireplace, and I'm like,
yes,
that's a nice feeling. And then
yes.
Atlas actually managed to make it flicker a bit, the lighting, like just really subtly.
Yeah.
So it actually resembles a fireplace as well, like a crackling
Yeah,
fire.
and I also like how my shadows are now in the room, and it works really well. It becomes immediately much more atmospheric, so that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what's the next step, you think? What's the very first next thing you want to do for the coming week?
Make a puzzle.
Yeah.
I'm not good at making
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have,
room, but just yeah.
we have a few ideas of puzzles here.
Okay.
And we're gonna pick one out and then make that.
Can you read them out loud so we're not all like
Yeah.
you need to
The thing that I like the most right now is that you have like multiple points in the room with like a sort of pillar with a light on it, and then the Twitch streamers can enter a sort of order for the lights in which they're gonna lit up, and then the watcher can see those lights, and then as soon as the first light goes on, there is going to be a timer, and within that time the runner has to go to that light, and then the next one goes on, and then the watcher and the runner really have to communicate on which light is going on and where he has to go. So that's one of the puzzles. We also have things with roots, like footsteps that the runner himself cannot see, but the watcher can, and then he has to make some kind of trail, and the trail will explain something or a clue or a shape, something like that.
Yeah.
And we also figured out invisible buttons that the watcher can see and the runner can't. So on multiple points in the room, the runner has to explain, okay, you have to go there, and then the runner has to press a button that he can't see. We also had with candlelight that the Twitch watchers see certain points in the room, and then the watcher has to direct the runner to that point with the candle, and then when the light of the candle hits the object, then the watcher can see the object, and then that brings them further again in the puzzle.
Nice. Very interesting. I think it is good to keep thinking of how to engage the body in the puzzles and not think too much about buttons. And so we're trying to, of course, work towards an experience that is physical. And I'm saying this while sitting on my desk chair again, of course. But I think it's important that the medium is an embodied medium, and we try to, especially in a mixed reality perspective, to engage the physical body more. So maybe you can think of a puzzle that you can only do by lying on the floor or moving under your chair or just stepping on the chair or whatever. So we talked already a week ago how to incorporate our actual room in the whole experience. I'm not going to stand on my chair because it's a wobbly chair, so that might be interesting to you how I fall over, but that's a bit too much for now. But so these are things that I think is nice to already start incorporating a little bit in your ideas. So it really comes together in a way. And another thing is and not to be in the way of you, Pepijn, but I think it's important to not try to program everything, but also just basically fake it. So if you have people trying out your puzzles, you can also be somewhere else watching through a camera what people are doing and just press the buttons yourself for certain cues or certain things to happen, because you need to first figure out whether actually the environment works, what kind of behavior people have, what, if they get the clues. So I think it's in that sense nice to have the MIDI controller connected so you can do something with the lighting, have certain buttons trigger certain animations and stuff like that. So you don't have to make a whole logics engine before you can actually try it out. So I would really strongly encourage you to puppeteer a bit your interactions before you start automating them.
Okay. That's interesting, Joris, that you mentioned that. What about if sometimes something to play with is someone else is the watcher is watching with approval or not, and they decide on what passes
Yes.
as well.
Well, I think exactly. I mean, what is interesting is, of course, the question with these kind of things is who is in control. So you try to balance that everybody has a little bit control, everybody has a little bit information, but you have to work together. But that can also be that indeed you're controlling certain events in the world that the other person is in. And help in that way, but maybe you cannot talk. So I have to suddenly start communicating by, I don't know, the flickering of the light rather than just talking to each other. And so there are other ways of trying to problematize the relationships between the different players that might be more experimental in a way and more difficult, of course, but for the longer run of this project, more fruitful than doing the classic escape room with the puzzles and the buttons and finding the number under the table and stuff like that. So I think it's a great setup to experiment with. Myrna, I also had you were doing that together with Rennie, right? The room where you had the light switch on and off, and every time. Oh yes, and every time new things appear in the room. Medora, you haven't seen that one, but they had this idea that the light switch, when you put it on and off, every time you put it on again, the room has changed, and it tells a story about the history of two people who lived in that house, which I thought was a very poetic idea. So maybe that is something you can introduce in this room as well. So now we have this wooden Canadian log cabin office space. I'm not sure. Something like that. Maybe if you put light on and off, suddenly we're in a different kind of space. So play with. Don't get too stuck in this is what it is, and now we need to build in a puzzle. But the puzzles can also be more confusing in that sense. But I mean, a great start, right? To me, it feels like you can do a lot of stuff. Lotte still cannot talk, but Stefan, you can. I don't know if you have anything to share in that sense.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, especially what you said in the escape room as well, is to look for different ways on how you can present a similar experience without making it very escape roomy. Because escape room, it tends to have this kind of puzzle mechanic that you're fighting against the clock and get a puzzle done.
Yeah.
You can also look at theater like Dolores in Tilburg, I think it is.
Yeah.
Which has a great way of environmental storytelling and puzzle solving, also in a way of exploring a space and figuring out where it is. So I think those kinds of mechanics would be a lot more interesting in VR than going the escape room route.
Yeah, and I now see Randy being in the flames there as a tiny little character. So I also in the competition, you saw there was a lot of experimentation with the difference in scale. I think that might be interesting as well to explore more. So you become more VR specific. So what is it you can do in VR that you cannot do in a real escape room? Well, one of the things is that you can shrink to a very tiny size or become really big. I hope you remember last week we looked at the Escher stair world, right? Yeah. And how you could be inside in different angles, but also when you were watching outside, you could see the people inside trying to negotiate that space, but you didn't have an overview. You had to fly around and look in from different angles. So these are all like aspects that you can try out more. Maybe these walls are just like the reception room have only a face to the inside, but from the outside you can look in, like you said, like a shoebox or a dollhouse or windows into rooms where people live. Medra, you're opening already things
Oh,
that makes you.
Yeah, I add those to the yours class, and that way you have reference points for student
Great,
information.
great, fantastic.
I think you can also look at this like puzzles because we're in a space together, right? And right now I'm a goose. And you can also play mechanics like that. So I have different needs in this room as a goose than you would have
Yeah.
as a person.
Yeah.
And that's alone, those two conflicting interests of the same space already creates a puzzle to play with.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We're not making it easier on you. I hope you're making notes. And I think that what we're asking, they can all be angles to the same puzzle. So it's not that you have to make different puzzles for all these different ideas, but you can at least play with these different perspectives and mechanics and questions of who's in control in what way. And I think indeed it would be really great if there is, I'm not necessarily saying a story, but at least there is more like a poetic approach rather than solving a puzzle that you have to find a number and then you can open the door and blah, 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 and there's the surprise. So I'm then also curious if you have ideas on a more like artistic or poetic level, like I'm now in a log cabin in Canada, and I was in a weird science fiction control room a minute ago. Or not a science fiction, actually. It was more like an abstract, weird, dreamy limbo space. So where are we? Who am I? How do I relate to this? Is this a dream? Am I a ghost? Did I live here? Did my ancestors live here? Is there a relation somehow? Because then, of course, I can also relate to the space in a different way.
Yeah, so as you may have noticed, there is no door in this room.
No, there isn't.
That's on purpose. There are no windows. That's also on purpose.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about like in the Azure world, you had all these windows and gateways to look in.
Yeah.
That would be like it would be cool. Like if you could watch through one side of walls, but you couldn't look out. That's the thing we could do. But the thing is, as I pictured it when I was building this room was. A Canadian log cabin, or just a log cabin. Because you can have that like really rustic vibe. It's like warm and cozy. But then my idea, I hadn't really shared that with Mirna or Atlas yet, was like you said earlier as well, suddenly a switch like to something completely different, which is the same reason why there is no walls, because you have no idea where you are outside of this cabin. You see this, but you don't know what's outside. And I like that idea. Maybe this is completely something completely like an illusion or something. You don't know where you are. And I was hoping to in the coming week explore more on that notion. What can the environments tell you about where you are, and would that be oh shit.
Go on.
And I think
Finish your thought, Randy, or is it gone now?
It's gone. It's gone.
Lotte makes such an impression every time she shows up. She doesn't have to speak. All right. If you remember what you wanted to say, yeah.
I think in how you're starting up by using the Bob Ross painting, I think it is.
Yep.
It's such a good mechanic because you immediately believe that you're in a cold place that is Canadian, but it's just a painting in the end, so it doesn't have to be true. And that's already a very good story mechanic to set someone up for plot twists later on.
Yeah.
Being in a desert or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sorry. Did I do that? Yeah, I did. Okay, cool. You made your own torture chamber, Pepijn.
I'm gonna call it
Okay.
Pepijn's torture chamber.
Yeah, it's specially programmed.
Yeah.
It happens when there is a runner. If someone is a runner, then if you click switch, then the runner and the watcher switch, which means I get back on the ground.
Ah, yeah. I see. Great. Okay, so do you have as a group any questions that we could still help you with, doing suggestions, or do you feel you're ready to continue and work on it?
I think the feedback we got right now, we can take off from there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
There are certainly a lot of perspectives we want to consider, especially because we were focusing this week on Twitch integration. As well. So there are a lot of perspectives we have to consider, and we still want to figure out like how we want to do it in environmental storytelling. But I think with all the feedback we've gotten today, we should definitely well, yeah, we've gained a lot of perspective on like the matter of perspective.
Good. Lotte probably wants to live here because she's warming her hands with the fire now. So that's great. So why don't we just go back to the torture chamber or classroom, whatever you want to call it.
Yuri, we can also, like, if Medra wants to see it still, like, we made a lot of progress in our light switch room.
Oh yeah,
So
of
if
course.
you want, we could show that.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
Yuri?
Oh yeah, sure. We have the world orb somewhere. I don't think I have it.
Hello?
Hallo?
Hallo.
Hallo.
Dus ik heb het een beetje goed uitgelegd.
Ik had het niet beter kunnen uitleggen. Dus ik denk het wel. Ik vind het alleen een beetje moeilijk. Ik ben gewoon nu. Ja, hij zei dat ik me een beetje moet vasthouden met mijn logics en dat ik het meer als de Puppet Master moet zien of zo. En dat kan ik wel, maar.
Ja, je bent een DM.
Ik ben een developer en ik hou heel erg veel van gewoon.
Kijk. Het is een suggestie. Ik denk niet dat je het moet doen.
Nee, ja.
Van mij mag je lekker doorgaan.
Ik hou graag van die mechanics maken. Juist
ja, nee, dan moet je dat zeker doen. En ik wil je even meenemen, want...
Oké. Ik denk dat de rest wel weg is naar de volgende kamer, dus je hoeft niet meer op Whisper.
Ja, maakt op zich niet heel erg uit. Ik bedoel, we hebben die kamer al gezien, dus ik vond die suggestie van Stefan op zich ook best wel tof. Dit is onze kamer trouwens nu. Dus moeten we nog wel eventjes wat shit in gaan plaatsen. Dit is dus onze kamer. Er moet meer naar nog bij. We moeten dus hier eventjes shit gaan indelen ook, zodat we het uiteindelijk kunnen presenteren.
Ja,
maar wat ik wil zeggen is het idee van Stefan, dat we het minder op een escape room laten lijken, vind ik echt ook best wel tof.
Zeker.
Weet je nog, die kamer, daar was jij niet bij, want je had je etnografisch onderzoek. We hadden een van de eerste keren met Joris een kamer bezocht. Met een switch, dan werd die hele kamer van bloed of zo.
Oh ja, daar was ik halverwege bij.
Ja.
Maar dat had ik wel gezien, ja.
Ik denk dat zoiets heel erg sterk is voor narrative storytelling, dat wij kunnen het in een kamer houden, maar dat je dan bijvoorbeeld tussen meerdere tijden reist. Of dat je opeens in een soort open veld, in een open veld staat of zo, weet je wel? Zoals Mirna zei, dat je opeens in de woestijn staat of zo.
Ja, dat is een hele goeie inderdaad.
En dan basically wat je krijgt, je kan dat puzzelelement erin houden. Ja. de puzzel-elementen erin houden. Maar dan zijn de clues misschien gewoon verspreid door de tijd heen. Weet je wel? Misschien hebben we één super futuristische kamer. Allemaal neon en zo. Daar ligt dan weer een clue die je nodig hebt voor bijvoorbeeld de cabin roll. En...
Nou ja, we hou dat even in je hoofd. Schrijf het even op. Dan gaan we nu eventjes snel meer naar St. Judy's kamer. Want
Er is
dan
nu
wou ik
nog
wel
iemand
even snel.
anders.
Dat is John, volgens mij. Maar kom maar. We gaan meer naar Judy's kamer.
Room, room.
Is also for yourself the
Yeah.
difference in how you experience the same space on a screen or how you experience it while being in VR, because we're dealing with these different perspectives, but it's also you relate differently to space, of course.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah, my world loaded now. So, you wanna tell us something about it, or shall I?
Well, I can start, I guess.
Sure.
So, like we explained last time, we had this story of two people being in the process of getting a relationship and that stuff. So it starts with someone moving in. That's the reason why there's like boxes everywhere. So they will move someone in first, which is a guy, and then he'll get a girlfriend. So the room starts to change. Like the bed gets bigger. You'll see instead of just boy stuff, you will also see girl stuff, and they will also get a child. So there's going to be like a baby bed there, and eventually the relationship is gonna end. So they will move out again after a while. But there's a reason for that, which we didn't have last time.
Yeah, the reason for that is last time that we here, somebody asked like, hey, what is the role of the viewer, the one who's here?
Yeah.
And then we thought about that, and we came to the conclusion that the one who is actually here and actually pressing the light button is just a spectator of what's happening. So we thought about implementing that in the story. So we added someone across the street who will also be spectating everything that happens here.
Lovely.
So
It's a stalker.
the couple is actually being stalked, and that's the reason that the relationship ends. So if you press the light, he will appear and he will move to different spots, and at some point the curtains will close because they're being paranoid, and there's going to be a chair with like binoculars to watch where he's going.
Very nice.
Stuff.
Very interesting.
And that way we try to like reflect the position of the one who's here, the viewer, also in the story.
Interesting, very interesting. Can you show the mechanics already a little bit, or is it still?
Sure. So we have the light button here, and if you press it, then it goes off, and if you press it again, it will go on. And everything you look back, you'll see that the objects in the room will change.
Nice. It's not getting entirely dark in my vision, at least.
Yeah, that's on purpose, so you can still find the light switch if it's dark.
Oh, very
So
good.
there's the bed, and also if you look out of the window now, I think he's already there.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, he's there.
He's in the window.
Oh.
I'm just gonna disappear. I'm not here.
Oh, he's now at the lantern pole.
So yeah, now the walls are being painted, and like the first
Very
stage is
interesting.
like finished,
cool.
and here is like the guy living on his own. But then he falls in love.
AC/DC poster.
And we have a two-person bed now, so there's somebody moving in. We get like more objects like television, also like girl stuff like the posters and everything. But you also see by the window, you see the chair with the binoculars to reflect how they are sort of paranoid and also looking out their window all the time to see where the neighbor is going.
Oh,
And then we have a baby. But you also see that the curtains is closed because they don't want their child being watched. So that's where we are right now. So the only stage we have to make is them moving out. So back to the boxes and moving all the objects out again. So that's what the last step is, and then it will be finished.
Wonderful.
You can also no clip out of the room, so you can actually see everything happen inside. Because there's only one side of
Not
the
my
surface.
mess, please.
Oh wait, don't ignore that.
Ignore the mess, please.
Why?
Using bull rights.
Yeah.
I see. To do activate and deactivate for things.
Yeah.
That's what I did on Wake Up. That was
love
bulls,
this
but
part. It looks very artistic.
Yeah, it's very interesting
like my
to
own
see.
piece of art.
It's a control
Fun.
room almost.
So yeah, and as you can see right now, you can look through the walls.
Can somebody do the light switch for a moment so we can see how it feels from the outside? It's really like this game, like look for the differences. I'm not sure if anything changed, but
nothing changed anymore.
No.
It's the last stage we have right now.
But this perspective is quite interesting as well. It really turns it into a set. Huh?
Yeah.
And so there's something to that. We talked about that also. If you've done the first person perspective, maybe you can also then become a third person. Watching somebody else doing it. So there's this layer where we are now is definitely interesting as well, especially if there's something here that is different from when you see it inside.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you need to notice the person outside when you're doing the thing inside, or maybe you only notice that person outside when you're outside yourself, or maybe there's something about I can choose what will happen somewhere between the light going on again and what it shows. So you can think about, what this perspective can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's also really nice to see like people in it.
Yeah. It's something I think I would like to play with to make it a little bit more voyeur and actually make it paranoid. It's if you would have a second player and he would be living here, for example, you know, just be seeing the house and constantly the light going on and off and seeing people run around. This person would start to wonder what's going on, and you can give him the tools to influence the stalker, for example.
Yeah, I agree. There is something to fixating the perspective from here and then only be able to look through the windows, which is also very interesting indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, as we said. No, I like the idea though. I wonder how people would react to something like that.
Yeah.
They would actually go paranoid.
So I think before you sort of consider this piece finished, when you have the things or the elements that you mentioned, I think you should finish it to a point where you can actually experiment with these different perspectives and not consider it finished as it is, but rather say we now have this space that changes, and now we can play with perspectives. And indeed, how does it feel to be stuck here behind a window and look from this perspective here? Or how is it if I cannot move, but I can stand here on the street and only look up? So I think there's still more to what you have now that you might think. But the whole mechanic of things appearing and disappearing is really great. I remember I promised you to send you the link to that particular piece of the Venice Biennale. Did you look it up for yourself? Where the cuts through the house was actually showing different slices of time of the same space?
Oh yeah, I went back to Venice, but I couldn't find it. Like a mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you remember?
what is the title of it?
They have it on 5 ports. Yeah.
It's room or something. I have it on my account, so I can find out and let you all know.
The title. Yeah, that would be nice.
So I can find it very easily because the titles are just on the doors, like of the entrance hall.
Yeah.
And then you can just find it.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, so I think there's still, if you're a little bit further and you clean it up a little bit and then you got your mechanic, I think it's a nice moment to together then take a next step and see, okay, what if we have somebody do this, but we are watching from different perspectives, and how different are then the perspectives of what we think we have seen, before you decide what is then the final version, so to speak. Yeah.
In my opinion, a version is never final, so yeah.
Yeah. Lovely. Great. Wow. Well done. Okay, so maybe we return to the class again.
Yes. I was hosting, right?
Thank you for sharing it.
I hope you like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to get all this feedback on it, and that's like really good.
Alright. Closing it now.
It's interesting. I had a slightly similar idea with Wake Up, where every time you would go through different experience, you'd wake up in the same room, and it was slightly different based on like the experience as you're progressing through the story itself.
Yeah. Wake Up was definitely a big inspiration point for us.
Yeah, that's like the first thing we mentioned. Like we both really liked it, and then this idea got out of that.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, wonderful.
Yeah, especially the darkness was something that was really interesting to both of us.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's
the light.
that's the point where we started, and then we got here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, for that reason, I have to say I'm not convinced that you need to keep seeing the room. I think going really pitch black, so even feeling you're not in the room anymore, might actually serve a different purpose.
Yeah.
And so I'm not so sure I want to stay in the room. It might actually feel that you in the same room, but in a different time. And for that, you need to exit the room in a way, or be in a limbo, or be, in an in-between space. So the light switch can still glow there in the dark, right? But not show the house per se, because then the changes become also more interesting. I really feel like I jumped in again in a different time, rather than I stayed there and things appear.
Yeah, we can definitely try it out.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what else? Is there anything else?
Well,
Have
this
you explained
space.
like this office space at all, like the new version?
Yeah, so why don't you tell us?
No, I haven't. Yeah, I after our meeting last week, I started building this because I wanted our research questions and stuff. I wanted it organized and in the same space, and it's kind of already working ahead that if we ever can give like a tour of what we researched, what our conclusions were, what our issues were, and what our findings were.
Yeah.
That we were kind of already had the space ready. So we've been reorganizing this a lot, cleaning up and building new stuff. And the main thing is the project spaces over there.
Why don't you take us there, and just while you're talking about, just show us.
I think it's moved because the light posts don't match it anymore.
Yeah, I had to move it because it didn't line up at all.
And to get to start off in this lobby, I've just put up art that I like. So. And,
that's
sorry.
nice.
Yeah. And to give you here and give you the idea that where the research questions are being explored, in what spaces they're being explored, what the main questions were, and then you can we want to put up a map here, so you can easily travel to those spaces. And I think Joris and Yuri and I are the only group that started working here already. I don't know if Randy has built.
No, it's still empty.
It's still empty, yeah. And this is kind of the idea that how we want to keep working. Like what you showed us last week, like what questions are you finding? Give us small examples. It's still not filled because I'm not going to fit an entire world in here. But just put up different tests, the questions that we have, some inspiration, I've made my own post-it wall that I first had at school, but because I'm working from home, I'm duplicating it. And keep going and keep working in this way. Like if the Lightroom, that research questions that appear there, or findings, or different phases that we can just put it up here.
Yeah, definitely.
And can you say something about the general feel of the environment? Because we have this fun fair, Helsinki at night, concrete building, large museum vibe. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the skybox and the outside, I think we've definitely chosen to make it feel alive in a festival kind of way. Like you're checking out different projects. The city's alive. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's also a lot of fun to be had because we want to add like small tests. And if there's gameplay, you can test it out already.
Yeah.
This building I kind of made for myself because I felt like Joris and I, we like this kind of environment to have like this huge artist space that you can just totally destroy and ruin, and have a feeling of the Dutch Design Week in Eindhoven also has those kind of industrial buildings where you can just set up everything and it's kind of a mess, but also really inspiring because everyone accepts it's a mess. That's why I decided for our space to look like this, but everyone and their research questions gets a new space, and they can design the space based on the questions and based on their own preferences, so every space also looks different.
Yeah, interesting. And there's something to scale, about scale that you're playing with, which I find also interesting. And I'm not entirely sure if your sketches and work is getting a bit lost, especially if you look at that corner. It looks a bit like lost in space, so to speak. And that's not about putting more stuff in there, but it also has to do with scale, which is actually quite interesting, but also something maybe you need to think about. So what scale do I have when I move through this, and is there, you want to keep it as open as it is, or is maybe other ways to navigate it? So sometimes it opens up, but then it closes into a space again, or you want me to have an overview of everything? That those are things that are interesting. They're really like exhibition questions, of course.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to think about. And then also, is there in a way an order? And so you have test 1 and then test 2. That proposes or supposes a chronological order. That's a way you can tell, of course, something about your research questions. You can also thematically group things together, of course, or create different tours, so different order of organization that I can follow, and then you tell a different story every time I follow the different order. So those things you can think about when you organize your work in here. Do you also feel there are portals? Because I remember when I was walking around here, you also made a little portal where you jump from one space to another.
Yeah, there's the doors over there, so you can jump to the portal room. But portals just make your server lag, so I kind of want to get off that idea and just have buttons that teleport you immediately. Because the visual portal just makes it lag way too much, especially once you get more.
There's tricks with that.
Oh, cool.
You might be able to work out too.
Because right now I just want to have buttons, I guess. But I want to get like a quick travel hall, so you can immediately go to a research question, but there's also different ways of getting a tour, like you mentioned, like just moving through the spaces or having a select few spaces, and within the spaces there's also like maybe different tours of the tests and who knows what.
Yeah, for example, I mean, I remember your theater performance piece that you did together. Was it with Yuri? I'm not sure. No, with Joris, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I have a very vivid memory of that space and that elevator and walking around with the candle while Mirna was in my head talking to me saying, "Why don't we go left here?" And you performing in these nice, weird, abstract avatars. So how would that be showcased in a room like this? Or would you rather just have me jump there? Or do you have like a video wall that shows the performance? Do you have ideas on that?
Honestly, I'm incredibly unsure because right now it's at over test there, so it's just the models right now. Because and our findings, our conclusions, basically after the test, like how do we want to continue? What were the interesting moments? And I've been thinking about, because it could either be video or just a part of the world that we could load in.
Yeah.
But when I asked those questions, I was also wondering like the performance of the world basically, and how much does it start to lag if we add in every world? Do we need to add video? Honestly, I wasn't sure yet.
Yeah, and I think so. I think it's interesting to think about the hybrid approach. So in a way, the exhibition is showing the sketches and the idea, and somehow there is a portal not to the same world, but to a different world. So we can jump into a new world that is actually then more like the aesthetic or embodied experience of the sketches that you show here.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it doesn't all have to be in the same world per se. But clearly, because I noticed indeed that character that you used there with the rabbit ears. I remember quite vividly meeting in that room. And when I see it here in this bunker being lost in this space, it has a completely different effect, of course, when I encounter that creature.
Yeah, I wanted to create like, I mean, I haven't gotten to it yet, but I wanted to create a small representation of the test and of the experiment. And the performance as well, but I still wasn't sure exactly how to do it, like what way.
I think we could organize, or you can organize it together. It's called Museum of Other Realities. It is on Steam. It is more like a fine art based exhibition, but there's some worlds being exhibited in really like an exhibition like Guggenheim, this kind of industrial kind of environment. It's really polished, and they also made portals into worlds. So you see partly the props being in the space with a nice light on it, and then there's some sort of entryway into the world. And some of those transitions might actually help you thinking a bit about this more. So I can really, and it's also like a social VR space. So it's something to maybe visit together and do a tour there. I think you need to pay for it though, but I think it was around 15 to 18 euros or something. And you then have like a lifelong subscription basically to that museum. Or you just have one person, or two buying it, and then you swap roles, whatever. But it might be interesting also as a exhibition space example, because it follows really a traditional modern art museum kind of code. But there's some interesting transitions there that might be helpful also for organizing this space.
Yeah.
And it might be a bit of a weird tip, but you can also try looking at Disneyland and how they design the entrances to attractions there. Because they really take a lot of effort to make an interesting entrance, because you need to wait so long in that entrance before you can start a ride. And you can also look at things that are kind of similar, like what Daniel Ernst does in his projects. He has this kind of shoebox, and then you see a shoebox representation of the project, and you have to put your head into it, and then the world loads where you're going to. So you can also look at those kind of similar kind of things, how we can show something small that references something big.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I think the big idea that this becomes like this research city almost, where everyone has their small buildings and research questions. I mean, that's pretty dumb already. The idea doesn't really have to need any more thought, but the representation definitely does need some more thought, and still not sure.
And it's not criticism, Robin, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm super happy you're doing this. I mean, we have this conversation because you made this. So that's really good. Yeah. Good.
It seems like I'm kind of grumpy today because my link cable broke down. And I'm in desktop mode, and it's such a disappointment.
That's why you're a bit more quiet. Yeah, you're literally more distant.
Hated VR.
Yeah, but I've gotten so used to the social aspect of these meetings, and now you're in desktop, and I'm just sitting here, and it's I don't feel any need to interact or talk anymore.
Interesting. Yeah. Make some notes on that, Robin, when we're done, because it's important that you remember the difference between the two perspectives. Yeah,
and I feel like the only way that I've gotten is because I've been in VR and social VR so much.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. We haven't seen everything, so why don't you take us to the other parts of this world?
Right now I think there's only Randy's room. He already started building it for their research question.
Yeah, it's kind of empty. There's only like a skill model of the room we just visited.
It really feels like a field trip right now. Like everybody's running
Totally
after each other.
Bring your buddy.
Come
Go
on,
for
Randy!
We lost Lotte again.
Yeah, look
Oh
at
no.
Lotte, you can also enter fly mode. So it's easier to get up.
We'll need fences.
It's a running gag every time we lose Lotte on the way.
I love that.
She's trying so hard.
Do you know how to use fly mode and all that stuff? Okay.
Can maybe somebody deselect the light, or is that actually the purpose to
Yeah,
have
if
a-
I don't know why it's still
to
selected.
remove this, you need to select it in the inspector and then deselect it again.
Oh, okay. Give me a
Sync new
second.
model.
Yeah, and now you can deselect everything. Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's just a skill model. That's it.
Yeah, but I like
Yeah.
it. There's always
That's
something
fun.
to this. Have you ever been to the Amsterdam Museum of Modern Art, Stedelijk Museum?
Probably.
Yeah.
There's
I
this
think
very
so.
famous work called the Beanery. It's like this cafe, and you're in this
Yeah,
modern museum, and
yeah.
then you enter through a little door, and you're suddenly in this brown cafe with people sitting at the counter with clocks as heads. And it's like super immersive, and it has a very similar feel to what you're doing here. So you're in this wide Guggenheim, industrial whatever museum, and then suddenly you enter this little small like delicate space. So
Oh my god. That's awesome.
moves.
Which is still
That's still
grabbable.
grabbable.
That's like the Efteling Villa Volta.
Yeah, Villa Volta, exactly.
Wait, wait, Medra doesn't know what it is. Medra, have you ever been to the Netherlands?
No, I wouldn't mind sometime.
Oh, if you
Love
go
to.
there, definitely go to the Efteling.
Sure thing.
It has Villa Volta, and that's the thing that we're referencing right now. So if you ever do that, then you're like, oh, now I get this joke.
We as Dutch people, we're so arrogant that actually we're saying we invented the theme park and Disney inspired the Efteling. So you know. Yes. Anyway, so much for our arrogance. Is there anywhere else or stuff that you still want to show or share?
I think for now this was it.
Guess you only have the
Then-
portal room that's kind of unfinished.
Yeah, I intentionally left it unfinished actually,
Ah, okay.
because I want to work together on spaces. So I think I want kind of the workflow that someone just starts building and someone else just sees it and like, oh, I can finish this, and does it in their own way to create this really cool mix of different styles and buildings.
Yeah, sure. And we'll get to that next week or
Mhm.
later.
Yeah, and I really want to emphasize that. Just remove things you want as well, and if you want to destroy a wall and create a door and a new room, just do it. I think that's the point of this world, is that we can all just, in an organic way, build it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like how we're all gathered inside of this box again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And we're also, well, we're not, it's not corona proof, but at least we have some sort of sense of distance from each other. Yeah, interesting. Good. Stefan, go away. Go away. Oh God, it's a huge Lotte in my face. Lotte, you probably have forgotten how you look like, but I think maybe, anyway. So should we go back to the classroom space, or should we go somewhere else? What do you feel like going to?
Oh god.
Well, we can go back to the classroom space.
That's-
I think.
Yeah, all right,
Okay.
let's do that.
Scary.
Like this house is very
Yeah.
cozy, but
Yeah, Pepijn fits just.
we we do have to make like stairs or something like here. Well, or
Yeah,
not.
once you fall in, it's like you cannot get out anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't want you to leave.
Yeah, like exactly. If you want that, then if it's intentional, then keep it that way. But
And I was just lazy. I didn't put in there.
see, that's like not a good explanation.
Well, sometimes the best ideas come from clever laziness.
So let's meet on the roof for a moment.
Sure.
Why not?
Oh, you got the gallows out. Oh no, the gallows are out. They do work too.
Yeah.
In the last creative jam, we played with those some more.
Not for now, but I think at some point, I hope you noticed that also the MMC, the competition, had a very clear requirement, which is to credit everybody who has worked on something. So I'm really happy that you're just throwing in all sorts of stuff together in this space, but at least keep a track on where you got it from. So if you later decide to open up this space for audiences, we should have a system in place where we refer to where it came from, if it's not yours. So of course this is partly made as part of an open source idea, but the idea of open source is also that you always credit where it comes from. So don't forget to keep track. For now it's fine, and then please stay playful and throw as much together as you want. But I think it's a little point of attention. Okay, so is it for you all clear what the next week is going to be? Because I haven't talked to Jason, but he was like super happy with your meeting, and he's already telling me like, yeah, I met now my actors, and you are really going to make it happen that we do the full alien rescue part, and then we can join. So it's really in his mind, but I'm not sure when yet. So whether it's next week or the week after, I'm not sure. So we still have some time to play. So I understand, of course, the worlds that you just showed us is something you want to, of course, bring to a further degree of finishedness or experiential finishedness. So for sure you can work on that. But are there, because I think somebody already said, yeah, we have this research question and this is how we now worked with this particular room. But I'm not entirely sure still what your research questions are. So I find it personally, it would be really nice if you can somehow start incorporating the research questions as almost like literal text floating in a space and relate your materials to that particular question. So the post-it notes in the wall in the other room is a good start maybe. But also with the worlds, like the apartment with the light switch, what are the questions you have as a designer, as an artist? It's really dark here, isn't it? Can somebody create a light here, so in the middle, so we have a nice campfire? So I think it's important that you start also connect your research questions a little bit to the spaces that you're now building. And it can be then that those questions are being offered to an audience like later on. So you see them afterwards, or maybe you see them in the beginning. So you can also consider your target audience for now to be co-designers. So other people, like in NEOS, most of the people here are having similar questions, like how do I use this medium in a new way of experiencing new things, etc. Yes, that is a research question. So what is a research question? It's a good question. But I think it's then important to elaborate on that a bit more and to design your spaces around a certain question. And of course, Medra has shared his humongous list with a lot of very relevant questions to your work as well. So I'm not even asking for you to formulate your own question. You can also say, oh, Medra had this one particular question I find super interesting. So for the next week, I'll work on that. But then make sure the question is really there. So we understand also what you are relating to. And the same Jason, of course, has asked some questions on audience participation, which you're working on. Clearly, you take it into your thinking, but you don't seem to really put the questions out there for me to read as well. So that's a little marker maybe, or a little advice I want to give you for the coming week. And it also helps you focus.
Lotte also asked me if we can tell something about the ethnographische research that we did.
Yeah. And is there something you can show while doing that?
Yeah.
Because I remember you explicitly said we want to do the presentation in NEOS, so you must have prepared something in NEOS for that.
Yeah, I can share my world and we can go there if you want.
Please.
It's this one. Okay, so this is the world orb. Somebody else please host it.
Who can host? Stefan is hosting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure who is hosting now, but we'll see.
Social interaction is different in NEOS than from in the real world, and then a focus on players who are new to NEOS and inexperienced with VR. So I had two people. You can see them here. These are pictures of them. And they one never ever had a VR headset on, and
Before
one
you continue,
only once.
I'm not entirely sure who is
think we
FTC VR3.
Hello, Feedy. Are you brand new to NEOS? I think you're fitting in this role exactly. Hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
This is actually a world about new users coming into VR.
If you want to listen, you're welcome to. But yeah, if you're not, then please leave.
Okay, okay, continue, Mirna.
Okay, so these guys did the test for me, and this guy once had a headset on and did like a roller coaster ride on the festival, and this guy never ever had VR experience. So I put them in here as these two avatars, and I was like, okay, just have a conversation. Just talk to each other and feel how that is. So I put questions in the air to help them get started with a conversation.
Right.
And for people who know the Pickwick suckers, like the tea
bags,
yeah,
yeah.
with the questions on it. These
Oh my
questions
God,
are
yes.
from those tea bags. And for me, it's like questions like, if you have 10 million euros, what would you spend it on? And things you're proud of, like really open questions that you can have a discussion about. So yeah, I put them in there, and I just watched their body language mostly, and also had an interview with both of them at the end of the experience. And yeah, from there I got my results on how how I perceived to be to have social interaction be different from in real life, and I came to the conclusion that for new players, it's really awkward. It's not very nice. But that was mostly also because they said the worlds that I created, it didn't have a very rich environment. And in real life, you mostly base your conversation on stuff that happens around you. Like, he gave an example, like there was some trash on the ground, and then they had a conversation about that you should throw your trash on in the bin. But like the environment triggered those conversations, and this world, well, you can see it, that didn't trigger much for them. And that was also a reason why they said like the conversation felt really forced and not very natural. So that's it's interesting thing that came out of my research. That's the social interaction and the quality of the social interaction is mostly also based on the environment we're in.
Interesting. Did you also compare it with basically? Oh my God, I see myself moving. That's so weird. All right. Did you, in a way, figure out what the difference was? Did those two people meet also in the classroom physically?
Yeah, they know each other already because like if you meet somebody for the first time, there's already a layer of awkwardness and.
Wow. The world exploded.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
you said the word awkward, and then the whole thing froze.
Wow. That's fun spontaneity. A new user comes in, the world explodes right moment. I love it.
Well done, you guys. Well organized. And half of the people are still frozen in that other world, which is also interesting.
What
Wait,
happened?
I'm gonna end it so that people come back here again.
Well, Stefan is hosting your world,
Oh, okay.
and
Then I hope
he's
Stefan-
still in there.
Oh, they're having a romantic moment there together. It's just fine. No, but Mirna, so it's very interesting what you're saying about the awkwardness of a situation if the context of the situation is in a way unnatural or in a way forced. I'm not so sure if that is akin to VR per se. I mean, if you would have like a table and two chairs in this anonymous like office space and you put two people there and say, now be social, that's going to be awkward also. So of course then, yeah. So what to you was, what did you find that is VR specific that you felt really played a role in this weird dynamic?
Well, what I found out is that for the first like 15 minutes or so, they were only pressing their buttons and they were they were poking through each other's bodies and they jumped off the world to see how the audio would go like softer when you fall deeper and like that kind of stuff. They were like the first 15 minutes or so, they were only focused on exploring the world and the limits mostly of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's very VR specific because you're in this new reality and you like if you're like a bit curious, you immediately want to know the limits of that world.
Yes. Yeah. So that actually is interesting because then you realize that new VR users go through certain phases of like getting to understand how things work, exploring boundaries, understand how the world works. And that for your design, and especially when you're going to present it in January to audience members that maybe also haven't done VR, and especially not NEOS yet, you need to incorporate all those steps and phases within your design, and preferably not by saying, okay, I give you half an hour to get acquainted with the controls and then we can begin. Of course, the best way would be is that you're already in the experience and you'll learn by doing in a way. Which is not, it's also how you would introduce a game, right? You can just give the manual and say, okay, these are your controls, or you build a level that you slowly get acquainted with the controls. So this is something that is really valuable, actually. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Did you do a male-female on purpose, or was that just...
Well, not on purpose, but I found out indeed like at the half, like when they were like halfway the conversation, the other was like, hey, you're a girl, and the other was like, wait, what? I'm a girl, and that was so funny. And I didn't do it on purpose, but it was it triggered some really interesting dynamic because the other one was like, hey, I'm gonna poke your boob, and the other was like, but I'm a girl, and he was so confused at first. It was really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot to that as well. What kind of body do you embody, and what then are the codes? What are the social codes within the environment? I mean, especially VR chat has had a lot of trouble with people harassing other people in many ways, and how to design a space that is then still safe for everybody to be in is another consideration that is very important in social interactions. Yeah, yeah. Wow. Little test and a lot of huge, important, interesting questions. Yeah, good.
Somebody
Anybody else still wants
talk
to?
about research?
Yeah. Yes. No. Everybody's silent. Are you now all pretending like Lotte, your microphone doesn't work?
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Atlas does seem kind of crashed, so.
Yeah, I think he's AFK for a minute.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's his natural pose, you don't know.
All right. Well, what I want to propose is that, Medra, if you could just briefly explain how you do a headless server, and then I will bring you to the WebSocket space for a moment, just to showcase a little bit what is possible in making connections.
Yeah, essentially, the way to set up a headless server is not simple. I mean, this isn't being named, but a lot of NEOS takes a little bit of learning, and certainly the headless has its own different levels of that. You'll need to be a Patreon user, and then once you have to set up on the Steam account itself. There's a special code that you have to enter in. Okay. So when you become a Patreon user, there'll be a special Discord channel that will open up called Headless, and underneath there's this is all these steps. There's a pinned item that gives you the code that you need to add to the Steam beta testing to unlock that. And then when you do that, you'll download a different version of NEOS that's called the Headless, and that's the first major steps. After that, you have to use a JSON file to edit it, and I'd have to probably show you the newer version. I don't think the pinned versions are very easy to use, and I can give a version that's pretty easy to use. And then you'll be editing that, and that'll be your main data point to edit if you want to have a different world or multiple worlds open.
Yeah.
And so you'll eventually, whatever world you have, you'll end up looking at it, and you can look in your sessions menu right now under settings, and you'll see something that says like get session orb, get world orb, and under copy record URL, that's the one you'll need to copy when you end up adding the URL. That confuses everyone. And I know I'm telling you a lot of stuff right now. This is just more to give you a general idea of how it works and what kind of what the process is like. So you copy the record URL, and then you add that into that JSON file in a specific place. And then what you'd end up doing is when you have the JSON file set up correctly, you would open up the version of NEOS that is the headless, and you can just, I make a shortcut because I'm lazy I don't want to type out the, whatever you call it, the dialog box. I can't remember. It's basically the DOS window, DOS prompt window. And so then you click on that, and it will fire up the headless. And what's special about the headless, that the reason why people use it, is it doesn't use a graphical processor. What we're using with the headset, it requires, GPU. What's nice about the headless is you don't have to have a computer with a GPU. And so you can just run it, and that means the performance is also better. And so it really relies more on RAM and CPU rather than the graphics processor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's pretty much how it works. You can have it auto-save, you can have it reset after a certain amount of time. So if you want to have a world where, if no one's around, it just would clean itself, you could do that too.
Cool.
So,
Pepijn, did you manage to follow these instructions from the beginning?
I know a lot of stuff, but I can definitely help walk you through if you don't have any questions. I don't mind at all.
Yeah. Because I think it's good to start experimenting with these headless servers and see if we can get it to work and what the how to work with the settings and stuff like that, and get already a little bit acquainted with how that works before we start inviting other people in and do actual experiences. and it might be really helpful. And do you know, Medra, because we're now having this group in a way, and we also have a group world, because this world is now for a single user, and it has a 1 gigabyte limit. I know the group world has a larger limit. Could they run that world on the headless server? So would that in a way enable that they can expand on this particular world further than it is now?
Yeah. You could, because you're part of the group, instead of saving, I don't know is this world saved under the headless, or is it saved under Randy? Who owns the world when it says the name underneath the world itself?
Pretty sure it's in the group.
Okay, because like the way to show you kind of what I mean is, let me grab out a world too.
Yeah, it said made by Mixed Reality Experience Design.
Yep, that means that the group owns it. Therefore, all the space in it would be part of the group space. So whatever you add to this, it will fill up that space, not your own personal.
Nice, that's good, because then you can use your personal account for your own experiences and tests. But we can use the group world then for this world, which might get like the most intensive in terms of assets and disk space.
That reminds me too, by the way, you're on broadcast, yours.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thanks for mentioning.
So
sorry.
The mixed reality world, the one account that you have at school that you're using that you want to use for headless, are they part of the mixed reality group?
Yeah.
Okay, good, because you want to make sure that they are, or else they won't. When you save, it won't save to that mixed reality group. Okay. And it won't have the same permission systems and all kinds of nonsense like that. Okay, good. Yeah. So when you save it, depending on how much you want, I might suggest making copies just in case if there's something you really care about and you're worried, like while it's on headless and it's auto-saving or something that it writes over. I like to have some redundant backups here and there just in case. And NEOS also set up a special system. I forgot to mention, this is just off topic, but kind of relates. They've set up some kind of special system that as long as you don't delete your cache, which is like storing all of your stuff temporarily, there's a way that they can restore sometimes items if you've accidentally deleted something that was really important. That's just brand new that they added like a month. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions? I know that's a lot of stuff with how the headless works.
I do.
Crickets.
Well, I don't have a question, but
Sure.
everything I did follow while I was AFK, wireless headphones. And I think I have read some of what you said already on the documentation page, didn't I?
Good, hopefully.
I think I did, because I had seen the beta testing that you can enter a code in Steam and get that beta server out. I haven't actually explored the Java stuff, but I think I can manage to get that working easily.
Oh yeah, it's a JSON file that's really basic. It's basically a text file. There's nothing too crazy about it. It's no crazy coding necessary. I mean, maybe if you understand some of the coding language, like knowing to put a comma after something, that's the important. That's why it breaks sometimes.
That I do get.
Yeah, it's it.
But so the question was actually, if I'm correct, everything you just said is kind of already on the Wikipedia.
Might be. I would say, based on my experience, maybe the wiki has been updated in a way that works a little better. I'll check it out too. Let me write down a note for myself on that. But it had been in the past, like all the information was in different little pieces in different places, which was kind of frustrating. And you'll certainly have to share the login and password in the JSON file so you can log in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Alrighty, cool.
Okay. Now, maybe because of time, Medra, you can stay as long as you like, but at least if you feel you need to do other stuff, then now we'll just jump to the WebSockets world. Which
I really want to see this. I'm super excited about it.
Okay, so I think I'm already hosting it. I will jump there just to be sure. Am I?
I think so, because it's
Somebody's
lit
hosting
around
it.
the edges. Yeah.
Yeah, I will. Yep, there you go.
I'm excited that you're using data sockets. I need to play with those myself. Probably not data sockets.
Sockets,
data fields.
Or data, yeah.
presets or whatever you say. Call them the
I now
news
realize it's a really tiny space because I've been
dynamic
working here
variables.
alone. Don't touch anything right now, please.
Just make this really small.
So the idea with WebSockets is that I'm not sure, but I've people jumping in still, of course. So the idea with WebSockets is, Robin, you might want to size down a little bit. Yes, thanks. Is that, especially where Pepijn is now playing, I can give that to you later on. John, if you could move maybe a bit to John.
John is like, nope.
So funny.
Out of all places.
There you are. Great. Thanks. So what is important is that it's running a URL. It's looking at a URL. I'm running right now from localhost. Localhost is basically just referring to my own computer and a certain port number. And you can see it is connected because it says true. And I'm running on my desktop a program called Chatanje. And on there, I have a WebSocket server. And that means that actually I'm running a WebSocket server on my computer as a local host, and that talks to NEOS. And what is really nice about that within Chatanje, and I made the links to the software, you can download it for free, and I strongly recommend you do. You can click on this little orb here. It says Chatanje download and Chatanje file. You click, it will open up a browser. You have to, of course, accept that it does. And then you can download the software on your computer and also download the file that I made. And that file looks like this. And what you see here is that basically I connected a MIDI controller. This, by the way, is a screenshot. It's not like a live stream of my desktop or something. But I connected the MIDI controller, but I also connected, for example, my phone with Touch OSA, so I can have the gyroscope of my phone or sliders of my phone being any kind of input. So right now I have a slider, for example. If you look at the ball over there, do you see it getting larger and bigger?
Yeah.
That's very neat.
I do that with a slider with the physical device on my desktop. Now that's very underwhelming because you probably have seen a ball going bigger and smaller in VR before. But what is interesting is that it's now connected to a physical device on my desktop. So you can live puppeteer events in NEOS running a local server, but everybody in that world has the experience. And that gives you basically a tool now to connect any kind of input, including motion capture, including data streams of whatever, even, any kind of stuff that you are not, is not natively in NEOS yet, you can now connect. And I use OSC. It's Open Sound Control, and it's a protocol that works with a /based address. So if you come over here, basically what you see, and maybe the best thing to look at is this little thing here. It says now slider 1. And if I use slider 1, you see slider 1, and you see a number that goes between 0 and 1. But I can also do slider 2, slider 3, slider 4, and they're all different buttons and whistles. I also have like knob 1, knob 2, knob 3. So what is nice is that it receives any kind of input that I send through this server without me needing to prepare something. Here, this mess here is me trying to make sense of strings and how I got these addresses up into different things, but it's not that hard to do. And basically, I can then separate a /slider/ a number into actually a variable called slider with a number. And that is sort of handy because then later you can attach things. Now, of course, if you have this system, it's really great, but then you have to make all the connections manually. And then the question is, how do you connect it to objects in space without needing to connect this wire mess to every single object in space? And this is where dynamic variables come into play. And up there, there's a new part made by Cecil, and this pronounces, basically, it makes variables on the basis of what it receives. And to make the story even more clear, I can show you here what happens, because I'll just briefly press this pulse here. So in my root folder, I made an empty game object, or Cecil did, called dynamic variables. And in there, in dynamic variables, there is a logic reference that listens to the thing that I point out over there. So it just basically listens if anything comes in. Now, the lovely thing is, the moment I touch my MIDI controller, I'm sort of in the way, just get out of the way for a moment. When I touch my first slider, you see it immediately makes a variable called slider1, and it attaches a number to it. It does it now twice because there's a bit of a problem with the update cycle. You don't have to be worried about that. We can fix it later. But the nice thing is that I never manually made this variable. It makes itself. So because it's listening to a port. So if I now do a knob, you see the knob is there. If I press a button, you get a button. And if I press that button, you see it has a 0 or a 1. It's down there. Anyway, so these variables enter NEOS and are made into a list. And that list, you can then actually open up again. So here you see slider 1. This listens to slider 1, and it knows that it actually exists in the world, and then it knows how to connect this variable. So if you do that anywhere in NEOS, you can have only this thing here called dynamic single variable, slider 1, and have that in the world, and it would automatically listen. And then the only thing you have to do is connect then anything you want in NEOS to this particular variable. So now slider 1 is connected to the scaling or the radius actually of the globe or the ball. Now, there are different ways to go about it, but I think what I like about it is that sphere can be anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be connected to that particular part of code, because the thing that is now connected is only sort of like a listener that listens to variable with the name slider1. And as soon as it finds it says it's true, it will port that number into whatever component is relevant to you. And this is really nice because then we can connect dynamically all sorts of input. You can also change your mind later on. It will be announced in that list in the root folder or in the root of your world. And then, while you're building together in the space, you can just say, hey, what is that slider that you just made? Or what is that object that is moving through the space? What is the name of it? Somebody can say, okay, well, it's Vive Tracker 05. That's a bad example, actually, because they are already native to NEOS. But yeah, it's the mocap with the name whatever / object. And then you have to only type in that variable name, and then it will connect to whatever you connected it to. In this case, the radius, but it can also be scale, or it can be any other kind of thing. Hey, Alex. Oh, Alex emerged, but he's not responding. So this is, I understand, a bit technical, but I think
World.
Alex,
Oh, it's a bit laggy all of a sudden. I don't know what's happening. I hope I'm not interrupting something.
Yes, you're completely interrupting something, but it's perfectly fine. Actually, Alex, guys, meet Alex. Alex, these are my students from Utrecht. Alex lives in Utrecht. Alex lives in Utrecht too. Alex was the very first person that I met in NEOS already quite a while ago, and he was the first one who said hi to me. And then we were both from Utrecht, which is like really strange.
Yeah, I remember. That was with the what was it called again? The thing from Prague, the building.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So these are all my students, and they're really making crazy stuff. And so I would say watch out for them, because they're going to build more and more experiments. So if you're interested, you can then try them out.
Oh yeah, they're not private, yours, so people are coming in.
All right, so I'll just, of course, people come in because it's like,
it was not set to private. I saw a world with 11 people, and I was like, hey, it looks like the WebSocket with the new beats, of course, a lot of people are building things.
Hey, Caro.
Yeah, you can make super amazing things with it.
Hello.
Yeah, so I'm going to finish a little bit my story for the students, but you're most welcome. I left the world open, so you're welcome. These are my students from Utrecht Art University, and they're doing mixed reality performance design, crazy experiments, and we're just learning a little bit about WebSockets and how to connect the physical space to the virtual space. So what I will do, guys, is I will share this world with you, so you can then open it up later on and sort of, dissect and trace back the stuff that I've done so far. Make sure that you download with the links there the Chatanya software, so you can run it also on your own computer and do the experimentation. And you can also download the file and open it up in Chatanya, so you already have some connections that is supposed to work in this world. Any questions?
This is awesome. That was not the question, but it's awesome.
I'm happy you say that, Mirna, because it can be a bit daunting. But of course, you're a spaghetti wizard now, so I'm happy that you're not taken aback by the technical complexity of it.
Yeah, I really like the planes to organize where everything is. So I think I might steal that technique.
Yeah, please do. It's actually in the shared folder as well. There's a little dummy here as well, which you can save in your inventory if you want. It's a great way to organize your code a little bit. Yeah.
Is the reason why it's updating, the way you were able to figure out the updating, is that because of the one per frame with the WebSocket, right?
Yesterday,
okay.
Actually, I think it was not Beamed, who was it? Turk came in. And I showed him the multiple variable problem that it duplicated in the root, and he put this one in, and then it worked. But for some reason, it's still duplicating now. So it must be this refresh rate with dynamic variables. If the same variable is announced several times in the cycle, it probably writes it also immediately as several instances.
Okay.
It's something like that. So to me, I think that is a technical thing that maybe Fruxius has to look into. How these update cycles work and how you not have the same variable announced 10 times in your list. Is that interesting question? Yeah.
Okay.
So the one per frame seemed to work, and then now today I notice it's actually not. So, but I have to say, even if you have 20 copies of the variable, interestingly enough, they behave as the same variable. So at least the connections still work. So slider one stays slider one, and it all updates together. Yeah.
And the problem that you're running into with your computer connecting with the interfacing software and everything, what do if we're going to set up one of these things, what are some things we need to keep in mind when we're setting it up to make sure that that doesn't happen?
Well, of course, you have Windows virus and how do you call it? The safety.
The firewall.
Firewall. Those settings, in general, I now have on, so it doesn't seem to be in the way. So in that sense, it worked. What I noticed with the Chatanya server is that it's smart to start when you open up the file to have the WebSocket server off and the client as well, and then first boot the software, load the file, and then have the WebSocket server go on. And I have a client there because if I put it on, I can then see if the server receives the signal. So I at least understand that then the server works. And if that works, I noticed actually just pressing this pulse here is enough. So all you have to do is press this pulse, and it will say true, and you're connected. So it was a bit of a what do you do in which order kind of thing.
Okay.
But since then, it has been actually consistently working, so I'm quite happy with that.
That's fantastic. Oh man, I'm really excited to try this out. I look forward to messing with this with MIDI as well.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, guys, I mean, importantly, it doesn't show here, but it says DMX. It means we can also connect the theater lights, the whole theater light system. We can connect now to NEOS, right? So we can have theater lights being triggered by things that happen in NEOS. Reversely, we can have the motion capture studio in Studio 3 connected somehow to this space. Of course, your school, you have a larger motion studio in the black box downstairs. So do some of that as well. If we can send some aux being tracked and have that as an OSC stream straight into NEOS. and have those objects being tracked in this space as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit messy still because actually it's since yesterday that this works. And a lot of the messiness is still like remnants of things that used to work, and now it's still hanging there as a reminder for me that I should take a different approach. So I need to clean it up a little bit, but maybe some of you are already like in the team are already tech savvy enough to make this work for yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I'm sure like I don't know, Randy or Yuri or Pepijn might be really equipped to get this to work with the stuff that I already have in this world.
And not to mention, don't forget to utilize the NEOS community. NEOS community is a very special one right now that everyone's willing to help each other out. So if you have a world open, you say, need help with logics, people will just jump in there and help out.
Yeah.
That's the kind of community that is there right now.
Oh, Randy, this is another thing, Mirna, also for you. This is one of the wonderful things that I got from Alex. He's this is a lifesaver. It's called the Logic Node Searcher.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
get you both
because
of those.
Yeah, you should really basically
Here we go.
Copy it.
This is the updated version if you need it.
Oh, great! I didn't know that myself actually.
And then let me find Rennie's. I think there's another one that's Renium's as well. There's one for components and there's one for logics.
Is there one for components also?
Yep,
Okay.
I think that's in there. Let me find that. If it's in the JP tools or if it's just in Renium share.
It really saved my life because you can now, if you
goodness, yes.
If you remember a certain node but you don't know where it is in this horrible logic like browser, right? You can just search for the word and then it shows you where it is. But you can also double click it with your logic tool and you have it loaded. So it's really really nice. So make sure you got it in your inventory because it's a lifesaver.
It's under the JP tools. Share folder, and it would be this is one of the logics ones. There's two different ones, and then there's also an inventory search. There's now an inventory searcher that's experimental with graphics.
Excellent.
Awesome.
And it uses a servant. Not this one. That's the component searcher. That one's from the JP community, which is by Vex. Let's see if I have GeoFix's stuff. Yep, I have GeoFix's as well, and that should have the inventory searchers also.
Great, Medra. Can you also maybe copy it in our class folder so we can find it back there as well?
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind at all. So what were the three ones was the JP. The JP tools are in the NEOS Essentials, but I figure we'll put it there just as helpful way to find. Oh, I'm the tiny. I forgot about that. Sorry. Sorry about that. It's a small space.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really
to the. Do you mind sometime when you share the world if I can grab it and I'll put it in the yours class share as well?
Yeah, I think I actually copied that already in our shared folder anyway. So if you put it there, it should appear also there class folder.
By the way, am I part of that share group? If you can start adding and removing people from groups now.
Oh.
I haven't tried it out yet, but
okay. Hey, kids, also because of time, Robin has decided to sort of be as far away as possible from us now. I see you disappear more and more, like in the distance.
Yeah, I think he's just small. He's really tiny. Yeah, he's just here. It's really tiny.
All right. Well, so are there any thoughts, questions, remarks still? Because otherwise, I think we should call it a day.
I guess I'll just mention it. In the worlds, I added some things that I thought you all might find useful. There is under MMC, there's two that are in there, Reflections, and It's a Scale World, if you didn't already watch tour, and then added for people that are wanting to have some Twitch integration, the NEOS VR Twitch streaming house.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the main category, and then a creator jam that used a bunch of experiments with trick streams, and that's in the yours class. Share.
And I will share this world with you as well, of course. And then, by the way, I have a media player there, which is actually a selection of Polo Prime's Twitch tutorials, including actually connecting to that Twitch house logic. So it's really nice to sort of play with that as well. Okay. Everybody happy?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to see all those works evolving.
Thanks again, Meta, for joining us. It's always such a pleasure when you're around, and I hope you get something out of it as well.
Of course, I love watching people's works evolve and how people's thought processes are.
Excellent. Stefan, you still want to say something about the coming week or so? Is there any announcement you want to make? Or
I don't think we have an exact plan for next week. If that changes, I'll let you know on Discord.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Excellent. So if everybody is okay with that, I'm going to close this world. So Alex, Cairo, are you still there? No. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to close the world. So you might be thrown out. That's not a personal thing, but it's just because of time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. It was nice seeing what you guys were doing.
Yeah, you can befriend Alex if you want. Firstly, if Alex wants that as well. But anyway, it's nice to show Alex around in your world as well. He's always very eager to see what people are doing. So, surprise him with your crazy experiments, let's say. And he's a really good test subject because he's seen a lot.
Yeah, I'm a good tester, yeah.
Yeah, So anyway, you get a lot of friend requests now. Okay. So if everybody is happy, we'll just jump back to classroom. Nice seeing you again, Cairo. See you next time.
All right, next time.
All right, I'm going to close this world. And poof. Well, I will leave this one here, so you have a copy of the whole world anyway.
Awesome. I look forward to playing with that. Thank you.
Yes, and so it's several people who already worked on this world. It's clearly not finished, but I think it will get you underway, so to speak. And then in the school outlane, you can get like these Cork MIDI pad controllers. So it's the Cork Nano Control 2 that I've used. I think in the school theater we have several, but we also there are several actually right now in the black box on the ground floor. So talk to Astrid to say, can I borrow one? I want to do an experiment. I'm sure she's quite happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Which brings me also to the question: when do we want to do more like a physical test? What to your sense of timing would be a good moment? Because I feel we need to do at least 2 laboratory sessions of several days before December. But we're already halfway October by now. So, what would be a good moment that you feel that you already incorporated some physical components in your idea, and then we can really like scale it up and make it into a physical space that can respond?
I feel maybe already next week, Joris and Yuri and I have already been talking for our next experiment to really integrate the physical space as well.
Yeah, but can you start in the classroom because you got your studio, but it's tiny, but you can still have some square meters there.
What we're thinking is we can start in the classroom and the virtual space even from our home.
Yes.
And then move to the motion capture, and then with what we have, we can just continue in the studio, and we already have a base set.
I agree. So my feeling would be rather in 2 to 3 weeks, we'll book like 2 to 3 days in the big studio downstairs. But that is only feasible if you have a lot of plans already that you indeed tried out in both your bedroom but also in the classroom first. because then we can upscale things instead of just entering that huge studio and saying, so what is it we're going to do? you know.
Yeah.
So prepare already some plans that you work towards, so to speak, that we can then do in the black box with the mocap and Astrid helping us out, maybe connecting some theater lights, playing a bit with the physical space, have some objects being tracked. Think about what kind of objects they should be, and think about some interactions that you can then try out. And hopefully this WebSocket world now will really enable you to basically make those connections. Yeah?
Yeah.
If you have any questions, indeed, use the community also. I mean, I haven't done anything myself in getting this to work. I got a lot of help. And people are also interested and eager to get it to work for other reasons. So, make use of that, I would say. All right. If there are no other comments or questions or doubts or other stuff, then I'm going to leave.
Joris, if you wouldn't mind selecting on edit the metadata there and selecting anyone can enter the world.
Oh, didn't I do that? I'm sorry.
You might have. It didn't work for me, so maybe.
Who can open this world? Only me. Oh yeah, no. Wait. So anyone?
Yeah, anyone save, and then that will allow anyone, if you share the world, to be able to.
But if they're
enter it.
changing that world and save it, will that then also be my copy being?
No, they won't be able to save it because it's your world, and they're not on the shared. It's not on the shared network. This is just allowing for access. Yeah, unless
So
they're admins.
I mean, they can make a copy of the world and work in that themselves, right? Okay,
Yes.
but it's not like they mess up my code and then
Exactly.
it happens in my world as well. Okay, good.
Unless you made them admins, they wouldn't be able to.
Maybe we'll only improve your code.
yes, I believe you, Myrna. But just to be sure, it would be really great if you can make a copy of the world before you start to really adapt things. So keep this world as it is, please. Make a copy and then yeah.
Yeah, sure.
That's only for visiting, so they won't be able to mess with it otherwise.
All right, good. Don't mess with my shit. Okay. Good. Hey, thanks. I thought it was again a great session, and
Definitely.
I look forward to next week.
Thank you for having me here.
Of course, always.
Yeah. I think I can
Thank
speak
you
for
for being
everyone.
here.
We also with saying that we also really enjoy you being here, Meta.
Oh, thanks.
Good. I would say group hug, but it's not going to really work, right?
Group high five.
Like weird, awkward, sort of being together, but not really.
Yeah, right.
Oh God! All this occlusion happening.
Overlapping. Just overlapping. Clipping.
Oh God!
A
Yes.
clip tug.
I got a mushroom hug. Good. Okay, guys. See you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Alright, hoe laat is het?
Ja, het is 5 uur geweest. Ik moet er ook zo weg. Want...
Ja, shall we call it a day, guys?
Oké.
Ja.
Dus even duidelijk, ik ben er morgen dus niet.
Oké, dat is goed.
Dus,
Vrijdag
ja.
wel, toch?
Ja,
Sessie?
vrijdag
Oké.
ben ik er wel gewoon. En ik heb morgen natuurlijk die presentatie voor mijn andere vak.
Ja.
En er moet nog best wel wat gebeuren, dus ga ik dat morgen doen. En dan besteed ik die laatste dag even aan dat project en dan heb ik dat afgerond. En dan kan ik daarna gewoon de rest van mijn tijd weer hier aan besteden.
Ja, is cool.
Prima.
Ja.
Yes.
Alright.
Alright. Laat die
guys.
over.
Letters.
Bye bye!
Wil er iemand nog Beat Saber multiplayer spelen?
Ja, maar het kan niet op de quest.
Wat kan niet op de quest? Hoezo niet?
Dat weet ik niet, ik heb niet gecheckt. Kan dat op de quest?
Jawel, kan op de quest, ja.
Maar kan ik dan ook Beat Saber spelen met iemand die het op Steam heeft?
Ja, tuurlijk.
Dat is wel
Kijk,
Dan ben ik.
Randy, let's go!
En I'm down. Ik heb je al niet op Oculus of zo.
Nee, maar ik heb geen Oculus, ik heb Steam.
Oh.
Ja, maar
Je
ik
moet het op Steam hebben.
ja, daarom zei ik.
En we zijn gewoon buddies op Steam, dus dat komt wel goed.
Geen Beat Saber via Steam.
Ah, wat?
Ik heb het via de Oculus Store. Dat is...
Ja, nou, dat kan toch ook?
Hoe moet ik dat met jou verbinden?
Ik weet niet, ik ga nu in Beat Saber springen en dan ga ik wel kijken. Misschien is het net als met de Spooky Ghost, is het zo'n soort code of zo.
Maar ik ga wel dan kijken als het niet met Randy kan, dan join ik wel.
Gezellig. Nou, zie je daar,
I'm a
guys.
Beat Saber
Alright,
Pro.
bye.
We destroy you, man.
Douche boys. Oh,
Oh,
Randy.
we worden
Bounce.
uitgekikt.
Randy. Bounce.
Ja.
Oké, mijn boy. Ik wil heel snel laten zien. Kom naar mij. Nou, als je. Kijk, ik ga nu naar onze Breaking Reality. En heb je al gezien hoe de icon eruit ziet? Van de naam.
De naam?
De naam van de Breaking Reality World.
Ja, bij mij laat hij dus niet correct.
Oké, nou, ik ga er nu heen en dan kun je bij Friends List zien naar de Breaking
Ja,
Reality.
ik had het net al gezien, maar hij laat bij mij niet helemaal correct.
Oh.
Hij heeft van die vierkantjes, weet je wel.
Ja, nee, dat is de bedoeling. Dat laatste gedeelte achter Breaking Reality.
Ja?
Daar zitten toch 3 kleine vierkantjes.
Ja?
Ja, dat is de bedoeling.
Oh, oké, ja, dan werkt hij prima.
En daar is paars, oranje en cyan.
Ja, dat lijkt
Cool,
te zien.
toch?
Ja, dat is pittig fucking awesome.
Cool toch?
Ja, awesome.
Alright. Spreek je later.
Ja, later.
Bye.
Bye. Sokken liggen.